Hey, howdy, and welcome everybody to your regularly scheduled and prescribed Overwatch League APAC broadcast. My name is Dort, and I'm joined by Avril to bring you the action early on. We've got some good ones for us, Avril, as well as some very important matches for the teams up on the docket.
Yeah, we've also matched up, which is entirely coincidental, but you know you got to get the synergy started early here.
As the flowers, I haven't even seen them.
You know what? So fun fact, I think we have actually casted before. The one time. It was for what was the event again? It was
themed to sunflowers. It was
the sunflower tournament. It was a tier 2 one. It was a contenders one, and we're back again. Got the flowers on, and we got some more contenders on as we're headed back into knockout stage here in the spring stage, Eastern region here with some actual knockouts happening. Where previous to this in the first week, we've just been moving teams around, teams getting their wins and losses, heading towards the upper bracket, lower bracket. Today and this weekend especially, we're going to start sending some teams home.
Yeah, rubber hits the road tonight, and for some very important teams as well. I mean, Dynasty being first up on potentially the chopping block, right? We've seen a few teams go down to contenders teams, but to be the first knocked out in the spring knockouts by them, it's not something Seoul wants to add to their accolades.
Especially considering where they were last year, probably number 1 team in the Eastern region. That's not even probably that would have been universally agreed upon. This year, they have had their struggles. They've come in, they've won some matches. They've had that shocking loss to Shanghai, which was a little bit confusing. They also beat Seoul Infernal. So they've had their highs, they've had their lows. And Seoul Dynasty right now fighting for an opportunity to go to Mid-Season Madness at the Kintex Arena.
Yeah, it's high stakes for a lot of these teams. And when you're talking about the upper bracket with Hangzhou and Guangzhou still up there, like this is not an easy group to get out of, to say the least.
Yeah, and how this format works is the 2 groups, the 1 winner from each group, head on over to Mid-Season Madness representing the Eastern region. The tickets are open back now for the second wave. Fun fact, the first wave of ticket sales sold out in 1 minute. So if you do want to head over to Korea and you do want to join us in the Kintex Arena for the Mid-Season Madness Global Tournament, the second wave of tickets have now officially opened. Although, based on how long we've been talking, those tickets might have been flying through already. So yeah. Hopefully you already got on that link now, because they might be flying out.
Yeah, they're sure coming. And like you said, the matches are bound to be good. But to get there, for these teams, it's not as simple as clicking a button within 60 seconds. They have to win a match over the course of a few hours and then win another match, another match, another match against some pretty hardy teams, not to mention the contender teams that are coming in and looking pretty healthy as well. Dreamers, despite their early knockdown to the lower bracket, I don't think are a team you want to sleep on. I've seen a lot of these players in action, whether it be in Overwatch League or in contenders, be it Chinese, North American, or wherever they're playing. They've got some real firepower.
And I think you were part of the prime, right, Dawn? You saw how the NA teams did against the NA contenders teams, but I think over in the East, it's a bit of a different story here, because you have, in my opinion, I think a lot of people would probably hold this opinion, probably much higher quality contenders teams, given when you look across the rosters. I mean, it's pretty clear. So many ex-Overwatch League talent across all the rosters here, all the contenders rosters, including Rhodes, the Chinese team, a bunch of ex-Overwatch League players on those teams as well, playing these Overwatch League teams that we currently have very closely. And, the very extremely storied O2 Blast squad who played Seoul Infernal to a gigabanger of a map 5, and that's probably the best match of the year so far, in my opinion. So the quality of contenders teams over in the East, especially given that's where the majority of exports coming from in terms of rookies, it's no surprise that the results haven't been extremely one-sided. There's been a lot of 3-1s in there, a couple 3-2s in there. Things have been competitive.
Yeah, Poker Face looks especially scary. Dreamers comes in, and like I said, they may have lost to Poker Face 3-0, but I don't want to let that fool you in this match against Dynasty. It's one that Dynasty should be able to handle, but Dreamers are a team that can get out of hand pretty easily. And you could say the same for almost all these contenders teams. You look at the Overwatch League, you look at set metas, even in APAC where things tend to be a little bit more open to interpretation. But these contenders teams come in and find ways to just completely exploit things, or come in with a specific style that teams may not have practice against, especially Dreamers, who are coming in with a pretty important Reinhardt pick that you have to adapt to, and can be a tough matchup for these teams if they're not coming in prepped for them.
Dreamers also in the Al Opens, which is the qualifier that led into this event for the contenders teams. They beat some prisoners on. Some prisoners themselves that looked pretty decent. They beat the Dragons on the first day. Took one map of the field and generally looked okay versus the field, although the field definitely came out and edged that series. So Dreamers are already a team that you would, in some cases, probably put above SBG, who themselves have already been an Overwatch League team. And now Seoul in those firing lines, as well as we take a look at today's schedule. Rhodes versus Pokerface after Dreamers Dynasty, and then Panthera SBG, and then Dragons versus O2 Blast, where I'm sure O2 Blast will be looking for a little bit of revenge after losing to Soul Infernal and ending their 31-0 match streak, which is now sitting at 31-1 instead.
What a shame. Yeah, I don't think O2 Blast is a team that takes that lightly. In the least. Whether the loss is to an Overwatch League or Contenders team doesn't matter to them.
You certainly don't get wins versus O2 Blast often, so Shanghai Dragons going to have to work for that. And the stat line so far is only 4 teams in the Overwatch League have ever officially lost to a Contenders teams. Those being the San Francisco Shock, Vegas Eternal, LA Valiant, and now most recently the Shanghai Dragons. And, you know, maybe Shanghai Dragons will go 2 for 2 on that one very soon. We'll see how they fare against the O2 Blast squad. Again, that won't be an easy match at all. But we've talked plenty about them, the Seoul Dynasty. They have to watch out for this squad on your screens right now. The Dreamers, headed by the eponymous Dreamer himself, who used to be on the LA Valiant. And, you know, the backstory of this team is really special as well, because this is kind of the one last ride journey in some ways, especially for Dreamer. You got some really good other young players on this team as well. Easy Hunt, who we saw on LA Valiant last year, super underrated player, extremely talented. Spectra, who's been one of the more highly regarded Contenders players for quite a while, still yet to be picked up, and I think a powerhouse in the squad.
Yeah, I mean, I had the opportunity to cast him for 3 seasons over in Chinese Contenders. An absolute gem of a player. As well, they've got Liga on this roster, somebody who I think is extremely identifiable within the tank role. I swear, you could watch a Liga game and know it's him just by the play style. Like, it's so specific. Following that up as well, some young talent in Dongun, who I think has been really developing into a player that could be something that you want to look out for in the future.
Yeah, so it's a well-rounded team that has had their struggles so far. I mean, you look at the spring stage results, they had to really battle out to even get to the Opens, and now that they're here, they finally get their first chance to face up against an Overwatch League team. Yeah, this will be the first time for Dreamers indeed. An Overwatch League team is on your screens here with their own new rookie in Sunjin. And by the way, look at who's on screen. Prophet is already back. I mean, if anyone's paid attention to Twitter or announcements from the Seoul Dynasty, would have seen that Prophet announced he was going to be taking a little bit of a break. That's why they got Sunjin into the roster. And for, you know, the other Prophet to play with Sunjin. And it seems like maybe the break is over. The break lasted 1 week, which I'm not complaining about. I'm happy to see Prophet back. I think this is insanely good. Does raise some questions in terms of what the hero pool is going to look like. You know, is somebody going to be picking up that hit scan position for this team? Because both Sunjin and Prophet are flex DPS players. Somebody's going to have to look towards the more hit scan side of that roster. It might end up being Prophet. Colosseo is going to be starting up today instead of Void as well for our first map. And I think once we reveal that map, it becomes a little bit more obvious. I think we should be potentially looking towards a little bit of Ryan today, which makes sense as to why Colosseo is in.
Yeah, as well, the Colosseo Winston, something that we should look out for heading into the first map. Notably, on almost every other control map, it is Void, but this is one of the few times we'll get to see main tank versus main tank play between Dreamer and Colosseo. Most other map types, it seems like these teams are just not going to be playing many mirror compositions. But one thing I want to start talking about mirror-wise is DPS, because I think Spectra's got his work cut out for him, man. Spectra, obviously an incredibly talented player, but when you look at the history, Tracer has been all right, but not necessarily a high point. And then you look over at Seoul Dynasty, and they add Seonjin to the roster, and oh my god, it feels like the dude's just been racking them up on Tracer, and it's not going to be easy to match that for Dreamers. I'm not sure they have a one-to-one with respect to that. That being said, Spectra still has plenty of other picks that he can bring to the table.
I think Spectra's strength is definitely more towards the projectile side. When you think of Spectra's hero pools in the past, I particularly look towards the Echo, right? That's probably been a signature pick, but generally speaking, you know, all the varied projectile picks has been Spectra's specialty. You're talking about Tracer here as well. When we look at the Seoul Dynasty, I'm actually even a little bit unsure who's going to play Tracer. I would, you know, you'd have to suspect it's Prophet, but at the same time,
I mean, it's your pick of the candy store at this point.
Prophet is probably more the
ones.
Flexible player, and he's more likely to maybe look towards the hit scan picks. But as we look at the opening lineup here in terms of picks, Sunjin's on towards the Sombra, which means he's going to be leaning towards the hit scan, at least for this map. Sombra is within the hit scan hero pool at the moment, and Hanzo is more towards, well, both of the roles will play, but Prophet will be taking that first. That answers some questions. We talked about the possibility of Orion. Dreamer's going to lock that in early. Colosseo, not just yet.
Yeah, Dreamer's not surprising us with that one. Colosseo, I think, is unsurprisingly on the Winston. It's kind of a map where you can either go the dive route or this more brawly composition. It's one that Dreamers are going to be comfortable on. You do raise questions for Dreamers should we head over to Gardens and things get a little messier for this Reinhardt composition that Dreamer has been heading up so dutifully thus far in the spring. But for now, it's just point control. Prophet taking some pot shots over on the side, but Seoul Dynasty holding their cards very close to their chest to start this one out.
Going to do something now because the point is unlocked and Dreamers will get that one for free. Dreamer already walking forward to make sure that Dynasty cannot walk in. I do enjoy the fact that Sonja did go towards the Genji, so the double Shimada Bros out, and the Genji probably a little bit better into the line of the Tracer. Is Belastria caught out?
Woohoo! Just got run down. I mean, nothing less to it. Seoul Dynasty have barely interacted with Dreamers.
Belastria just got walled off, cut off from Eloise from the healing. That'll be fight one for the Dreamers squad so far. Just a little skirmish to start things out with. Seoul Dynasty, I mean, I think the only good news here is that Lijiang Tower should be on a nano soon. Although that nano could be delayed. I mean, we might not see it until the 40% mark for the entire cap itself.
Very passive play from both sides. Eventually, Seoul are rewarded for their patience. But can they capitalize? This fight is far from over, especially with Lee Soo-min down. Does get the nano boost off, though, before hitting the dirt. Just going in trying to recapture this point. They know they have a small advantage. The back cap available, but with no backline, Dreamers, it's going to be too possible.
Yeah, so Dreamers losing the back line, as you mentioned, but Dynasty managed to sneak away the cap in the middle of all that chaos. Dreamers moving up to try and take down, I think it was Lee Soo-min that got caught on the back lines. He was in the side rooms. But with Dreamer himself as the Rhine player all the way off the point, Dynasty easily steal that one away, and now they got more ultimates to feed themselves into. Really looking towards that Katuna rush here.
Well, they'd love to get it up, but they might not even need it. This Primal from Belastria has already got Easy Han. Much else that Dreamers really have in their back pocket once this amplification matrix goes down. Blizzard's available for them. They don't pop it. Instead, Belastria falls without having to use the critical ultimate. They'll throw in a sound barrier for good measure here, but with the point capped already ticking up, Seoul Dynasty would love to come back to this one sooner rather than later.
Krillin was, I don't know if he was too far away or what, but he should have just TP'd in Suzu, Belastria, and tried his best to keep him alive there. That would have given Belastria some much needed healing. You could have played the Katuna rush there as well, but looking over towards Krillin's POV after the fact, it did seem like the cooldowns were available. We did see him TP in afterwards, and the Suzu was there with Belastria down. That's really bad news for Dynasty. They failed to be able to really hold on to that point.
Now Dynasty are tasked with having to find another major pick in a difficult position as well. It's very hard to force it on this particular map, and in the meantime, Belastria is just getting swung on by all of Dreamers. I mean, the guys barely get to play the game, for Pete's sake.
Just frozen immediately. There's not much else to open with. They go in with the the Dragon Strike, and now the Dragon Blade, but no support. It's a 1v5 scenario for Sonj, and it's going to be a full reset here. I mean, 90% Dreamers are looking like they're in position to win this. Shatter's still available. It's going to be a free Shatter as well. Nothing to block the Shatter. Sonj is still playing a bit of Mystery Heroes. Sombra is going to be the pick now. They're going to go full dive.
They get a touch, and it makes you miss that blade a little bit more, especially with the Nano boost coming up for recent. Nevertheless, though, Seoul Dynasty attempting to get this touch going, and there's not really much in the engine to really fuel the tank. Dreamers take away sub-map one.
Yeah, I wouldn't say easily, but yeah, towards the end there, it definitely got a lot easier for Dreamers, and Dreamer himself happy about that result. It's a Seoul Dynasty after their initial nano play from Lee Soo-min onto Belastria that won them a fight. From that point onwards, they failed to keep Belastria alive.
Oh, wow.
Didn't get their DPS ultimates off. Take a look at the replays here in terms of what happened during that primal fight, and you know, my eyes are on Krillin here as Belastria just gets pumped. Maybe Belastria could have exited earlier as well. He probably looked to have overstayed there, but you see towards the end, Krillin then TPs in after Belastria dies and then plays a Suzu afterwards as well. So none of those cooldowns got used to save Belastria's life, and I think that costed the team.
Yeah, what's going to cost him even more is some rough RNG, to be completely honest, right? These are two very different teams. Dreamers, this is the most optimal map pool rotation they could have gotten, going Night Market into Control Center. Yep. For the Rhine Center team, I mean, this is a dream come true. Although they are tasked with not dying to Prophet there, which becomes a little bit more difficult in the confined hallways of Control Center, but it doesn't deter Dreamer, who charges forward into the back line, forces out an Immortality Field, and it's Lee Soo-min hitting the deck before you can say Lee Soo-min.
Love to see the follow coming through as well. I mean, when you look at Dreamer's POV on its own, it looks like he's going super far forward, diving super deep in. Great pit onto Belastria, but could be caught out there as well, especially if Sonja got a wall off. The rest of Dreamers managed to come in time. Dreamer is not that risked in terms of his own life. Fight one for Dreamers again. Seoul Dynasty once again starting out on the back foot here. I haven't talked about the fact that Belastria is on a Ram here as well, and you know, that's obviously the Ram versus Rhine discussion continues. Balashria's hero pull, I would have imagined he would have gone the Reiner's ult, hasn't decided to do that.
Seems like Dynasty firmly think it's the proper pick. But remember, yeah, Void usually plays the Ramach for this team, but given this specific map, it's got to be Balashria doing it. Dynasty building up towards a couple of ultimates. Nobody goes down in the early fight, but with an amplification matrix up, it's harder for Seoul to push forward into this. Using that momentum off the back of the damage that they just did to push forward, Dreamers look to storm onto the likes of Balashria, keeping the health bar down, keeping him backed away in the door while they pick off his teammates one by one.
I think Dreamers might have overcommitted here. Really what you want to do there is play the Amp Matrix but into your own Ice Wall to lock somebody down and get a pick. They failed to do that. I think Spectre might have already used the Ice Wall, could have been on cooldown. Dreamers walked up and they ended up losing players, and as soon as you lose Dongan, you get a little bit more desperate. You want to trade 1-for-1, start throwing bodies at the Dynasty, and Dynasty just collect you as you walk up, and Dynasty win that fight handily with 4 ultimates up now, nearly 5. That is a huge turnaround for the Seoul Dynasty, having spent nothing while gaining. In terms of Dreamers losing their ultimate, that's a big plus for the Dynasty.
Yeah, it's going to be a kitchen sink fight, though. Seoul did keep 4, but as did Dreamers. They're nearly built up towards that sound barrier. I don't know if you want to engage this before you have it, though. Seoul effectively have a trump card right now in the sound barrier of their own. Krillin holding it close to his chest, though. Finally pops it, but it doesn't save Balashria! It's a little late. Dreamers, if they could just survive, they can just pop the health bars back up.
Prophet?
They may be able to pull this one off, but Prophet's got other plans. Easyhan, though, stays alive, and like I said, it's been just long enough. Dreamers pull the health bars back from the depths and keep the fight alive.
Prophet tried his best over there. 2k, looking for number 3. Seoul Dynasty desperate for it. Ends up being Easyhan that collects the 3k to send Dreamers further forward, 60% now to 43. A solo shout out to Balashria, and that was what really swung it initially. Krillin, as you mentioned, sound barrier comes down, but not in time to save Balashria, who got chunked down, burned 100-0 instantly. It's going to be Annihilation versus sound barrier here. Annihilation, very strong ultimate, but not the composition that really benefits. No Nano, I should probably say, and well, Krillin, no way to get out.
I'm loving this proactive play from Dreamers. You know, I was watching the VODs, prepping for this, and the one thing that I noticed the Dreamers were just struggling with was being Yeah, it's a, you know, mentionable back cap. But yeah, it's nice to see them being proactive. It was one of the things that they were just not doing that much in the previous games. It's good to see it changed up.
Well, you certainly have to be the proactive team playing the Ryan. You're playing with TP plays as well. The back cap is significant because it does slow Dreamers down enough that allows a full respawn away for the Dynasty, allows them to contest as well. Sonjin to Tracer, they've noted the swap. They should know that Sonjin should be flying in at any moment. There is the Tracer to initiate the touch. And the rest of the team now, again, playing for the Annihilation here.
The sound barrier for Dreamers. I mean, it's the trump card in the fight. It is the major player. Dynasty have to find a way to either out-sustain it or kite it away. Either way, it's not going to be easy. Sustaining pretty well, though. With Dongun down, it becomes a lot easier. Turret bomb to high ground for Easyhan. Switching up the angle from which Dreamers look to approach. But they still find no purchase on the health bars of Seoul Dynasty, save for finding Profit, but that's not going to be enough.
I mean, the window is small in terms of playing through the sound barrier to counter the Annihilation. It will give you an opportunity to fight in, even with the Annihilation. But if you can't manage to find frags in time, if you can't get the trades necessary during the sound barrier, that's gone. The Annihilation is still running very long ultimate. The Seoul Dynasty will kind of grind out that fight, especially when Prophet will give the nail support nice and early. The second support down, Dreamers have no shot. So, could be a double 99 here. In fact, that's what I'm expecting. Window from Lee Soo-min to play this fight.
Numbers versus quality, though. The Blizzard, very, very dangerous. But Seoul Dynasty have a whole bunch of ultimates to pepper in onto the point. Unfortunately, that Blizzard, it's just a little bit too much. It was out of the pot and into the fire for the Seoul Dynasty. The last fight was difficult enough, but this one proving unrelenting as Dreamers flip the point back over, 99% up on the board, and Seoul Dynasty in a very uncomfortable position. The Shatter makes it all the more dangerous. It's TV up on the high ground as well. Dreamers are not taking no for an answer. They still got a few more players to finish off, and Seoul Dynasty are not making it easy.
They're gonna get missing down. And one Spectre right now. Another lamp is available. They're slowing things down. This could be the cap. And Dreamers will forfeit the cap away. They don't want to take any risks. They felt like they were losing that fight. And I don't know, maybe they were. Seoul Dynasty, again, they had no supports. We are definitely going into a double 99 now. What a save coming through from Seoul Dynasty. Profit from the high ground using the Ant Matrix coming through, release through men. Now the final swaps. Prophet still the danger man on the sidelines, playing close this time.
Pressure's got an opener. Sonjin hits the ground, especially just before the pulse bomb comes up. Dreamers just have to keep it open. Do not let Prophet find a pick on you early in this fight like he has in fights prior, and you should be able to make it out alive. Sound barrier from Seoul Dynasty to just give them a fresh set of legs as they go into the second half of the fight. With Bellis Rhea down, it becomes that much harder. Lee Suman and Prophet were able to do it from the high ground last time, finding critical picks in a critical position. This time it's proving far more difficult, though, as a sound barrier from Dong-un gives Dreamers a new lease on life and looks to see them through the end of this point and the first map of the series.
Lee Suman hacked out here as well. Bellis Rhea finally getting to play the game. Prophet will try and save it. It's technically a 3v4 here, but if Lee Suman dies, it's probably over. Just the 2 remaining for Dynasty. Blizzard to secure it. EMP up next for Dreamers, and they're going to take this one away, Door. 1-0.
A massive 2-0 as well to start things out. It was a dream map choice for Dreamers. It was the perfect sub-map rotation within that, and they took advantage of it beautifully. I mean, Prophet and Lee Suman, I got to give some real credit here. Those two made it so difficult for Dreamers time and time and time again. But they saw their way through, and that's what you're going to have to do against a team like Seoul Dynasty. They've got the firepower. It's just if you can outlast it.
Yeah, I mean, looking at stats now, Prophet actually did get a deadlift there, 11 out of 21 final blows, so you can't say Prophet didn't try. The man certainly put on his carapan, certainly made things really competitive for the Seoul Dynasty, but they couldn't keep up with the Rhine. The Winston couldn't play into the Rhine properly on Night Market. The Ram looked okay, but, you know, it's a bit of a different Ram comp. It didn't include the Ana this time around for the Nano Annihilation combo. Bellis Rhea having to eventually go towards the Doom. The Seoul Dynasty couldn't keep up the frags. Came down to Prophet. He did his best. The rest of the Seoul Dynasty unfortunately fall.
Back to the drawing boards for the Seoul Dynasty. We'll see if they can pick it back up in map number 2 of Dreamers. Continue to put on the pressure. Welcome back for map number 2. We've currently got Dreamers hot on the heels of Seoul Dynasty after a map 1 that was, I mean, not only favorable for them in pick, but favorable for them in the fact that it got a point on the board, Avril, which is something that I don't think a lot of people were expecting coming into this. We said there was certainly a chance for Dreamers, but to see it start out in such a stark fashion, I mean, it says great things about the team and even better things about their odds.
You mentioned the rotation of sub-maps there as well when we had Night Market into Control Center, which is probably, if you are playing the Rhine, definitely favorable for the side of Dreamers. But I'll also add on top of that, I mean, even if we had Gardens in there, maybe Seoul Dynasty get the 1, but we eventually get the Control Center map anyway, given that they did lose. Absolutely. They being Dynasty here, losing Night Market. So the result might have only just been a 1-2 instead of a 2-0, but in any case,
a big one,
it possibly would have at least changed the momentum slightly for Dynasty. Let's take a look at missing stats. As the BAP on Lijiang for Dreamers, the one keeping Dreamer alive, the one throwing the lamps in. They did a pretty good job of that. 5 final blows, 19 elims. Good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's consistent play from the support line, which is especially what you want when you've got a team that's rotating as often as they have been. The big thing for me for Dreamers, I talked about it a little bit during that map, dude, but the proactivity, it's night and day from their previous match. When they went up against the team they fought last, they were just constantly on the back foot. They couldn't seem to figure out how to engage into compositions that weren't mirrors. Time and time again, they were the ones getting fights taken onto them while they were waiting and trying to figure out how to approach a fight. This time it's completely different. Obviously, the Symmetra brings that much more into the realm of possibility, and we'll see how they do without that Symmetra, but I really, really hope it holds over into map number 2.
And, you know, as we start heading into Hollywood, and I'll start talking about the map in a second, but to close out on the stats that we saw there as well, I think the most important thing that we actually missed out on, this is a little bit of extra context, but Missin's entire job as the BAP is to be the babysitter for Dreamers Rhine, and Dreamers Rhine only died 3 times over the course of those 2 rounds. So 2 rounds combined, the entirety of Lijiang Tower, 3 deaths, which is very impressive, and a lot of that is due to great pocketing coming through from the sports, specifically the BAP play. So I think that's probably a more important stat line than anything that we saw from Missin's actual individual stats, more so how well he kept Dreamer alive. And we'll see if that continues to be the case as we head into Hollywood. Will probably be very different comps here, not expecting the Rhine at all. Missin will probably not going to be playing the BAP, and this is where the Winston Ana should be the likely look for both teams. We had no substitutions, no Void in here for the Seoul Dynasty, which means Bellatrix staying in to play the Winston. Again, not super surprised. This is a very Winston-favored map. Both teams should be on Winston Ana here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why we saw this pick from Seoul Dynasty, right? They understand that the one thing that we don't feel as comfortable on, if we're Dreamers, is that Winston, right? When you think of Dreamer, you think of that Reinhardt. The Winston is a matchup for Bellatrix that he's done a million times, and God knows, I've seen it a million times. It's something that Seoul are very comfortable on, and Dreamers can be a little bit less so, but forcing that mirror matchup to get something pretty comfy. Prophet's going to stay on that Hanzo that he deadlifted on in the previous map. Jeonjun onto the Tracer that, again, he's been putting in some serious work on. On the opposite side, Spectra to face him down.
Yeah.
Not going to be easy.
I'm going to mention something as well as the action starts to unfold here, is that Blizzard World was also in the pool, and that's a pretty favorable map for Bull. If you could talk about Bellatrix's signature picks, the Wrecking Ball is probably number 1. He's one of the top Wrecking Ball players in the region, maybe the world, and certainly is the designated Wrecking Ball player for the Seoul Dynasty. He's done well on that role. The Seoul Dynasty Hollywood will instead be their map choice, and as mentioned, it will be the Ana Winston on both sides. Will be Prophet finding first blood as he does.
That's what you're looking for. Another one from Prophet offered up. That being said, the trade is a little bit better for Dreamers. Happy to pick off the Ana following that. Seoul Dynasty in a bit of a limbo currently. Unable to find a proper engagement. Dreamers are just going to pick them off one by one if they're not careful.
Probably like this. And Krillin to follow through as well, I think. You know, we'll be able to get out alive barely. Bodyguarded by Bellatrix's shield here, and I think the biggest thing about Lee Soo-min going down is it gives Missin a little bit of a chance to catch up here. As Lee Soo-min attacking side Ana, you expect the Nanos to come a little bit quicker, and this looks to be about a 115, 120 Nano, which is about par, be 5 to 10 seconds behind where I'd like it to be. Still ahead of Missin though, which is really what you want to see. Dreamers have to survive this now and find their own Nano afterwards.
Immediately finds a clean engagement on Easyhan as well into the hands of a waiting Jeonjun, who is well.
Lee Soo-min.
The backline is traded though. Lee Soo-min gets caught up in the choke point, and now things get awkward. Yes, there's one more pick in there for Seoul Dynasty, but far from over. Dreamers have a couple of ultimates. If they find the opportunity, if they can just regroup on point alongside this rally, they're in prime position to re-engage.
And now that Dreamer has his own nano running, with Dreamers putting in both of their support ultimates, it's very unlikely they lose this fight. Dynasty have to respect it. Gotta give credit though, Lijiang won his 1v1. It's a little bit supported by Krillin there, but he actually takes down Spectre, which is impressive for his own life here. With Bellatrix going down, that's definitely the fight lost. Spectre to follow through with Pulse Bomb, and it's over for the Dynasty for fight number 1.5 here. It's been about a half now.
I'll tell you what, I'm not looking at how many fights we've been in. I'm looking at how much time has passed in those fights. We're down to 1:40. Solar not working with much, and we're rallying out of spawn. If he, oh no, the Dreamer gets out.
That was
clean.
worth now.
Oh,
That's
okay,
worth
that's
now.
huge. That's huge.
With the kill, they can
Very
really do
fine
something with
line
this rally.
between
if they
throwing
don't get the
and-
kill, it's pretty disastrous. But they get the kill.
All good for Seoul Dynasty. See if they can capitalize though. There's a long time the Dreamers can wait and try and find a re-engagement here, and if Lijiang goes down, it's all the more possible.
It's 2 players trying to take him down though. Lijiang still surviving for now. While that's all happening, Bellatrix's got the supports locked up. He is purple though, so he has to respect that. The Dragon Strike running on through makes it half a Dreamers to recontest. They'll get it anyway. The Bellatrix is down. It's a 1-for-1. No supports on Dreamers though.
No support, but a Bob should they want to invest it. They have a lot of help, a lot of net total beef. They want to try and force Seoul to fight through it, but they're not going to. They'll hold their cards for a point B.
All beef and no seasoning here. No supports to really pepper that one up for the Dreamers side, and I don't think it's really worth it to put in the Bob afterwards. You need that healing output to be able to survive. Bob can also just get slept and taken down. So, Seoul Dynasty keeping Bellatrix up, locking up the supports on their way to B. Time is a factor though. As you mentioned, they lost a lot of it on A.
One thing they do have working for them is a pretty nice position for Seoul. A comfy spot on the high ground. Wolfsbomb looks to break it from Spectra, but there's not really too much to find here. The dive up from Dreamer is unassisted and ill-coordinated by Easyhan and Spectra. Seoul Dynasty easily pick it apart.
And Dreamer just kind of went back in there. I think he even knew he was going to die, so that was very risky, but perhaps looking for a very small chance of a trade. Very optimistic play for Dreamer. We'll reset in any case. Both nanos up. Primal was used by Bellatrix, so that's one thing Dreamer's going to have open for the Dreamer side. 4 ultimates, basically 4 Dreamers, slightly before Seoul get their own 4.
Yeah, it's a kitchen sink fight for sure. Everything being thrown in. Immediately a rally response from Dongwoo, but he's pulsed! Jungin shuts it down. This is a massive opening for Seoul Dynasty, as now they've got the rally trump card. Just need to be able to regroup and use it properly to pick those health bars back up. They do, and now it's back to the drawing board. Immediately putting that firepower and that extra beef with the seasoning this time towards Dreamer, making him pay the price.
And they played the nano in afterwards as well. It was good to keep Dreamer up for a little while, but the rest of the squad for Dreamers started to fall around the sides. Easyhan and Spectra be the 2 down there. The extra rally from Krillin, huge in the end of that fight. It's exactly what you want to see on Seoul Dynasty. They'll continue to find perhaps extended stag here. Dreamer went down to, was about 100 HP maybe. Less than that. 250, around 3 minutes is what they had coming into C. So it's a respectable amount of time. They can definitely finish with the time bank here if they can continue rolling through off tempo. And that tempo will be in the form of the nano coming in from Lijiang.
He's built back up that time bank like you mentioned. It's all the more doable for Seoul Dynasty. Lijiang nearly up to the nano boost as well.
Krillin. Nearly.
A bit of trouble, but does manage to find their way out, and it's again playing on the knife's edge for Seoul Dynasty that does it. Forcing a small overextension, allowing Seonjun into the back line. Immediately wipes it as well with the help of Bellows Rhea. A cheap fight too. They keep the nano boost.
And they'll probably get a secondary pick here. Not quite. Spectre just barely has enough blinks to sneak his way into spawn. It looked like a corner trap there too, or at least a body block to keep Spectre out. That would have been pretty disastrous. For all of that though, Seoul Dynasty, they still can't cap. They get all these kills. It allows them to free push up. This is the fight that counts, and that is a really nice opening.
Oh no. Yeah, nano boost down. Rally is on the horizon for Dongwoo. Can he stay alive? Oh, only just gets the rally up. Puts Bellows Rhea in a grave and saves the day for Dreamers.
Forcing the rally though, I think is not the worst scenario for Seoul Dynasty. They still have enough time to play through. The 1-for-1 ult trade there. What was it? Nano for the rally towards the end. Pulse bomb. That will open things back up for the Seoul Dynasty squad.
Seonjun's just cooking. There's nothing more to it. We're starting to see the kid eat up. Young player for Seoul Dynasty coming to the rescue. Next to the 10-year of Prophet, it's impressive to say the least. Easyhan, though, throws in a dragon and looks to save the day for a team of his own. The Dreamers keep the hold alive.
Yeah. Sonjin, he starts things out well for the Seoul Dynasty, but unfortunately missing connects. Beautiful Bionet into the back. Prophet and Krillin caught. Never survived that one, and Dreamers will continue holding now. Time starts to be a bit of an issue for Seoul Dynasty. Less than 1 minute to go. High risk of, if they do capping only in the OT here. Can the Dreamers? This is their opportunity to play for the Pulse. We talked about Spectre on the Tracer a little bit earlier. Now it's time to get the test open to see if he can be the one to carry on the opposite end, because Sonjin is once again building up towards another Pulse.
80% already to the next one, which is quite frankly absurd. Spectra throws in his bid, and it takes down Sonjun. That's a Tracer gap if I've ever seen one. Prophet on the high ground as well. Tickled away at by Dreamer. Steps a little bit out of his bubble. Pays
Dreamer wants it.
Health-wise, Dreamer needs to be careful not to overextend here. They've done it again. 5 players shooting at completely different targets for the defending side. Not able to find that focus that they really need to finish off the Seoul Dynasty and Seoul. Just use a magnifying glass, beam all of that sunlight, all those rays onto one player. Sink Dreamers down to 4, and after that, the dominoes fall one by one. Now it's back to spawns, with Seoul Dynasty having a nano boost in their pocket. Bellisria backs away for one last engagement.
Okay, here we go. This is the nano play now. Bellisria didn't get the nano early because he was purple, but this is the opportunity. Because he jumps back, though, there is going to be a little bit of tempo loss with missing down. It's going to be a nano gone. Prophet on 2.
Oh my god, Prophet on 3!
That's it.
We spent all that time talking about this nano booster Prophet just from the high ground 3. Wow. I don't get how the guy does it.
I think Prophet just, I mean, he quite literally wins it for them on that last fight with the 3K, but he actually wins it on the last fight before as well, the second to last fight to be exact. Because the reason why Dreamers look so uncoordinated on that second to last fight, you were talking about them all going for different targets. Part of that for me is because Dreamer overcommitted onto Prophet. As we'll talk about that in a second, as this is the Dragon Strike play that got Prophet and Krillin down. Sleep onto Bellisria. That Bionane, as I was mentioning, onto Prophet and Krillin. Beautiful stuff that won them that fight. Then the fight afterwards, or a couple fights afterwards, Dreamer, he does that small jump over towards Prophet, got super greedy. He's thinking, I can just solo kill Prophet. He can't. Prophet ends up pummeling him out. Dreamer's not dead in that scenario, but he's so low HP, he can't commit back into the fight. He's out of LOS from Dong and Miss and can't get the heals. And while that's happening, Bellisria is jumping on in. The Seoul Dynasty have an actual front line pushing their way through, and Dreamers, their entire team is kind of all over the place at that stage, with Dreamer out of commission, no HP.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big reasons why we often see them overcommitting towards Prophet is there's a weird amount of heals being put into Prophet. Like, Bellisria is working with food stamps.
This is the 3K.
Large part of the time. But this 3K from the high ground, I mean, this is what happens when you invest in Prophet. Kills aplenty. 3 from up on high. And again, I want to point out, a lot of the heals from Lee Sumin are being focused into Prophet when he's being dove by Dreamer. And that's so critical for making Dreamers overextend so often.
Well, you know, I think Krillin as well, protecting Prophet is kind of the role of the Brig. Sumin definitely will have to focus mainly on Bellisria, and then Krillin will ideally focus on Prophet, but keeping Prophet alive in any case from either support has been key to Seoul Dynasty's success. He deadlifted on Lijiang Tower. He's a frag leader in the lobby right now on 9 final blows, and rare that we get a chance to see Prophet on the Hanzo, because it's typically Prophet playing the Tracer, which is in the hands of Sonjin at the moment, who goes down.
Only one player for Seoul Dynasty. It's far from over. As long as Prophet's alive, I'm not convinced anything's over for Dreamers, quite frankly. Bellisria down, though, does spell disaster. Point A already looking to be capped by the Contenders team. Felt like Seoul really had it locked up by capping that 3rd point, but this time bank is pretty hefty.
Yeah, I think this is a full cap. I mean, maybe Bellisria will go for the touch here, but he doesn't have Lee Sumin. Definitely doesn't have Prophet here. I think it would be a very risky retake, and kind of flirting with the idea, but he's already dead. Yeah, he's gone. Spectra, beautiful stick.
Yeah, it's a clean one. It's done for good value. As well, the biggest thing that's going to let them do is take this 1st point cap into high ground control on 2nd, which is massive.
Seoul Dynasty, you can't catch a break on this defense so far. It's been a bit of a disaster, and one of the interesting things that we saw there, we talked about the fact that the supports are very much supporting Prophet. As soon as Prophet got dove there, both Krillin and Lee Sumin jumped to his rescue, and did leave Bellisria out to dry a little bit. The Bellisria was also slept and then naded straight away, which means no chance to really do too much there, healing or not. Screamers will be the ones getting nano here first, ideally, although Lee Sumin's just about there as well. Both Annas should be applying this immediately.
Close for now. Dreamers are willing to wait because the card hasn't quite pushed up enough yet that they feel positioned enough to fight. This is playing so far away, though. Playing so safe, trying to be out of nano range. I love that they don't Nano Dreamer initially as well. They want to pull out that Donk cooldown from the Brig. They managed to do so. It's Bellis Freya who engages first with a Nano Boost. Thing found. Dreamer's turn next.
Instantly forced back. Byronade. You'd think this would be where the Nano is, given that Dreamer's on half HP. Primal Switch, I don't like that. I think you should always Nano first and Primal second, but definitely wants to take one player out if he can, and his target is Prophet.
It seems like the goal is to pull more cooldowns before they go in for the Nano Boost, but it hasn't quite worked out for them. Seoul Dynasty, because that Nano Boost is still in the pocket of missing, just have free roam over the high ground.
Here's the problem is, like, first of all, Nano is the far easier ult per cycle than the Primal, given how fast it can charge versus Primal. Second of all, Primal is a better insurance policy, because once you Nano out your play, he goes deep, Dreamer dives in, probably away from LOS from missing. At that point, you're primaling it's aware you might not even get the Nano chance anymore. So Dreamers, I think there was a weird line of play coming on through. And speaking of cycling ultimates, I mean, Lee Soo-min's already looking at second Nano here. This is what I'm talking about.
Getting lapped is missing, but again, I don't think that's missing. It's more a fight planning thing than anything. Specific player. Dreamers approach again up to the altar of Seoul Dynasty though, and Prophet on the high ground. Krillin, bro, has not missed a boop yet. That one's just barely not enough though. Finally the Nano does exactly what it was meant to for Dreamers. Haven't dealt with Proper though, or Bellis Reyes, so it's far from over.
Yeah. That steadfast passive on tank though stops Dreamer from being booped off the map. At least he was going to work the pulse. Probably would have died anyway. Now it's up to Krillin to keep Bellis Reyes up.
Is staying alive. Does manage to find Mist in the meantime. It's making it very messy for Dreamers and taking more time off the bank than I think they would like to use in a winning fight. Spectra. But it is still a winning fight.
Well done on Spectra there as well to win the 1v1 versus Sonjin, and talked a lot about Sonjin's prowess as this rookie Tracer for Seoul Dynasty, and talked about the fact that Spectra hasn't been super comfortable in the Tracer, but that's been proven to be false today as this Tracer has been looking phenomenal. With Krillin falling down here, at least we to follow through. Seoul Dynasty cannot hold. This is a really good time walking into C. In fact, it is more time than what Seoul Dynasty had.
Yeah. And at the hands of a weirdly shaky point B. It was unconventional for sure, but Dreamers certainly got the job done.
After the first fight where they, you know, kind of, in my opinion, mishandled the ultimates and had to forfeit that fight, came back very strong on the following one. Off the back of finally playing the Nano onto Dreamer and then Nano connecting onto the back line in terms of Dreamer just diving on Krillin, Lee Soo-min. Spectre had to recall very quickly there. Prophet looked to have his number.
And Prophet will have your number. That's not a recall you give to many other Hanzos, but with the way Prophet's playing, you have to respect it. Dreamers, though, have somehow found a way to lose this position. They're just not playing proactive enough. They threw a pulse bomb and then kind of called it, but they had 4 ultimates into 1, and they just, there's nothing used before they go down.
Well, they played the pulse. That missed. I think they were waiting for the Nano next. They'll have to wait a little bit longer with missing down. Slight spawn camp here. There won't be too much of a spawn camp, but this is the fight that resets the timer, right? Because we talk about the fact that Dreamers had more time coming to C. They don't anymore. Seoul Dynasty winning that evens things out entirely again. Yeah, now that Missing finally does have Nano, guess what? Lee Soo-min's about to have another. So you talk about the Annas lapping. Lee Soo-min has certainly done that, or is about to again.
And because Dreamers lost that last fight, despite having way more ultimates than Seoul, Seoul get up a rally to try and stop Dreamer's rampage, which again is starting off with a Primal Rage, weirdly enough.
It's a sad Primal. It's a sad Primal. He's doing it on the
sad Primal. It's crying in the corner for sure. You know, lurks with the pulse bomb, throws it in versus the Brig. Not found quite yet, but again, Seoul answer with a Nano Boost of their own, the one that Lee Soo-min gapped missing with. Holding on to that rally for when things get messy. Both teams mirror them again, keeping the sustain in the fight high. Pulse stick is massive though! Spectra delivers again for Dreamers. It's just about to follow up now. Dongun bashing into the backline, looking for that health bar. Abello's Rainbow refuses to go down, but the rest of his team certainly will topple far easier as the cart careens towards the end of the map. If they can do this with more than a minute on the clock, that is the time that they are looking for.
The rest? Krillin went over to Mercy just for the... Does he swap back now? Is the biggest question. Dragon Strike from Spawn, but who can touch Sonjin?
They just get the touch. Lee Soo-min, oh, it's a sad touch to follow it up, though. Into the welcoming arms of Easyhan. 17 seconds, they just have to buy. It's not about winning at this point. It's about living for Seoul Dynasty. There's just not enough, though. 10 seconds, 9 remain on the clock. Unfortunately for Seoul Dynasty, that's 9 more than Dreamers needed.
That is a tragic 9-second differential for the Seoul Dynasty, because now they can't win the map anymore. It becomes a draw-only scenario. They had to hold out for another 9 seconds. They couldn't get it done. I respect the play, though. Krillin swapped into the Mercy out of spawn just to go for the res, and the res allows Prophet to get this Dragon Strike off. I mean, brother, if that works, and that allows the defense to, even if they hold for an extra 9 seconds, and that's what made the difference, that would have been an insane play. Something you don't see very often. But yeah, just couldn't quite keep Balasria up there. The Dragon Strike was nice, but couldn't find enough value. Sonjin had to go for a very late Desperation Touch, was the only player close enough, and well, Dreamers just worked the momentum. And Dreamers can lose some fights spectacularly, but once they get a roll on, man, this team really starts to roll on. And this is where I have to start singing the praise of the Spectre Tracer a little bit more. The really Tracer that we were having doubts about earlier on. He's got a 12-second quicker Pulse Bomb ult charge time than Sonjin, with a 0.63 Pulse Bomb efficiency to Sonjin's 0.25, so he's kind of getting 3 times the value on Pulse Bombs at the moment. Both are, you know, still missing a few Pulse Bombs, not getting a kill all the time, but when the kills do come in, Spectre's getting more of those. So Spectre is definitely, I would say, outperforming Sonjin and the Tracer so far, which is a huge difference maker for Dreamers, given that we thought that might be a potential point of weakness for Dreamers. Not to be the case today.
Even just matching Sonjin in this would have been enough, but Spectre is, like we said, over-delivering.
Straight up outplaying.
Yeah, you're very happy to see it, especially if you're Dreamers. You really.
He's won the 1v1. He's beaten Sonjin in the 1v1s as well. So
3 times? Yeah, it's getting out of hand, though. Now, though, there's still more work to be done for Dreamers. Stepping forward dutifully onto the point. And Donghoon bravely into the territory of Seoul. They're met with an anti-nade, though, and the follow-up is nice.
Prophet just completely annihilates Dreamer. The Lee Min gets the final blow, but it's Prophet that did the majority of the damage, and Prophet will now continue that killing spree onto another player. Dreamer's instantly back on out here. Massive fight with Seoul Dynasty to open things up with. And considering there's only 1 minute on the board, less than that now, high likelihood of a draw.
Jawbul. Ultimate's up, though. Spectra, Pulse Bomb, Sonjin could match it as well. We've talked about this Tracer duel the entire map. It very well could spell the end of it as well. Spectra up to 88%, Sonjin 95%. The number's ticking ever closer, counting down to the death of one of these teams. Spectra's got a Pulse Bomb. Can he deliver? It sticks onto the shield. Krillin gets the block. Seoul stabbed back with one of their own, but it finds nothing. Everyone remains resolute. A sleep connects release Min, offering a moment of reprieve for the Seoul Dynasty to get their nano boost up and finish off the fight, finding a massive draw in the second map of the series.
Now, welcome to Draw Overwatch, everybody. This is, I think, the first draw we've seen, at least in the East. I'm not sure in A if they have any draws just yet, but this is the first draw we've seen in the East so far, and I think the only thing more tragic than Seoul Dynasty not holding up for an extra 9 seconds, allowing them to have their own attack, is Dreamers unfortunately doing all that work and not able to get their single tick on A. To be fair, it is easier said than done. The Seoul Dynasty played very aggressive on that A defense on the time bank. They had some risks and rolled the dice, came up with all the high numbers they wanted to see. Prophet fragging out as you'd expect. Again, lobby leader in terms of frags at 19. Almost looking towards his second deadlift there. It was 19 out of 43, so needed a few more to confirm it. Like, what is that, like 3 kills away or something? So Prophet tried again to carry his hardest, and I think he delivers once again.
Yeah. I do want to continue to highlight Lisa Min, who's been critical to not just the success of Proper, because we talked about it earlier. It was kind of weird seeing that much invested from the Ana. You expect the break packs to go towards the DPS, but to see that much as well invested from the Ana, it's huge, but it's paying off. As well, the anti-nades, 2 fights in a row to finish off the map there, are big, and if Seoul Dynasty want to keep this thing within range, within reach, they've got to keep making big plays like that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're heading on to a map number 3 after this break. Welcome back. We're heading into a map 3 between Dreamers and Seoul, which is very quickly proving itself. A matchup that I don't think Seoul wanted to be as close as it is after all, but it's being real close for us, and I appreciate that.
You know who else didn't want this to be close? And, you know, we can look at a draw and think, man, how do we arrive at a draw? I can tell you who I blame for that draw. I blame Lemon Kiwi, because she also wanted this to be a she said, you know, enjoy your 3-0 tonight. I was like, oh, you better be careful with that, because you might just curse the series. Lo and behold, here we are. The series is officially cursed with a draw. And now this is, you know what? I think this is going to go 6 maps. I think this is going 6 maps, maybe it's even 7. Maybe we're going to see the first ever draw in Shambali. This is going 7 maps.
Oh my god. Well, I appreciate you segueing it, because I'm going to not pray for 7 maps. And mention that we're heading over to Shambali, which we talked about the last one. Felt like a pretty smart map pick in the Seoul Dynasty. It only netted them a draw. Shambali feels like even more so a fantastic map pick. They're going to go ahead and sub in Void for Bella's Brand. Makes a lot of sense. Likely going to be playing the Ramatra here.
Yep.
On the other side, though, Dreamers not putting in Liga, keeping in Dreamer, who, again, hasn't often really matched this. Is probably going to play the Ramatra, though.
I think he plays Ryan. I think he goes Ryan here. Yeah, for sure. Because we've seen teams go Ryan here before. It's reasonable. I think the Ramatra is typically stronger. This is, by the way, I think Seoul Dynasty's best map. By far their best map. Without a shadow of a doubt. A lot of that comes down to how good Void is on this map. We've seen him play everything on here. Sigma, Junker Queen, Ramatra, even the Ryan. We've even seen Void play the Ryan here. Although, to be fair, that was in the first week. I don't know if he'll do that again. But, yeah, this map is perfect for Void.
We kind of Giga Chad to match the Rhine mirror to Dreamers.
I think that would be probably not a good choice.
not optimal.
Well, you're already down 1-0. You just drew Hollywood. I think if you're Dynasty, you go for the higher chance of winning here, which is to probably play Ram or Sigma. Most likely the Ram, given that you expect Dreamer to play the Rhine.
But think about the style points, Avril. Now we're leaving on the table.
I think Seoul Dynasty just want points, regardless of whether they bring style or not. They just want any point. Currently, they don't have points on the table.
Yeah.
Currently, Dreamers have 1 point. Seoul Dynasty have no points, so they just want any points, regardless of how it looks.
Well, it seems like a pretty good place to acquire them. Shambali, like we said, a fantastic map for not just Void, who comes in bringing a fantastic record, but also the DPS line that's been performing quite well for Seoul. Yes, we haven't seen Sonjun gapping Spectra, but the matchup has been at least in contention. For Profit, though, it's going to be a playground. The Hanzo, I think, is likely to come back out.
Oh, we've actually seen a lot of Sojin. Yeah, I mean, okay, he's highlighted that.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, Avril. That's the, you know, the go-to.
There we go. The crowd's back in.
Let's go.
Hot and heavy for map number 3. Yeah, for sure. I think you can play the Hanzo wherever. Just thinking about what we've seen with this Ram comp before, I've probably seen more Sojin Mei combination, but as you mentioned, don't fix what ain't broke. And I think that's sort of true for Dreamers as well. As you know, I expected Dreamer to come out of the Rhine. That's been true. They won with the Rhine on Lijiang Tower. They'll try and win it here as well.
Notably, though, he was against Bella's Brand. Void is on the Ramatra, a different beast. Often made onto Dreamers, immediately taken down. Great ammo. Keeps about 3 players off the brink of death, and in fact, manages a pick onto Void, which will stabilize all the health bars, nullifying all the work that Lee Sumin did with that anti earlier.
So I'm just stealing payload though, which is really interesting. So you have a little bit of back capping on the sides. This is going to force positioning away. Sonja's dead here for sure. He won't be able to be saved. That's fine though. I think stealing the payload slightly and just moving that one up and forcing Dreamers away is kind of worth. And the way for Seoul Dynasty to be able to break the spawn hold is just by rotating around and having different angles to work through. They are solo amping into Void just to get him down. Saved by the wall though.
Invest early. This is the best opportunity for the Rhine to really get a solid
buy low, is that what you said?
And try and find early opportunities. Again, the biggest problem for this team before in their matches prior was just that they weren't being correct. Even if it doesn't work, it's good to see them looking for plays actively like this. And now as they storm forward on this whole Dynasty, Profit's taken low yet again. And it's Void who's going to pay the price. All the heals turn away towards Profit, and Void is left hanging all the same way that Bella's Freya was in those maps prior. A Blizzard thrown out by Soul now in desperation, looking for anything onto Dreamers, but it's just not working!
Sonjin had an easy kill, the easy hunt there, but he just whiffed all those shots, sadly. He took down the lamp, which buys a lot of time for Dreamers. But easy hunt should have died there for sure. That was a pretty big investment from the Seoul Dynasty. They wanted to try and swing the fight around. Decent, I think, photon barrier from easy hunt, generally speaking. This spawn hold's gone on for over 2 minutes now.
It's getting really excessive in the Blizzard. It's only getting worse. It's not just the Blizzard. They have the first sound barrier. Krillin still doesn't have sound barrier. Probably just threw in a dragon into Narnia. What? Soul's got to break this. What are we doing?
To be fair, Krillin's been doing a lot of flanking. He's been playing a little bit of, you know, backcapping as well.
That's some turbo copium. They have not gotten anything done. We're still in the same spawn that we've been in this whole time. Shatter makes it worse. Oh, through the application matrix, it's a massacre. Bloodbath now looks to ensue as Void pops an annihilation. He was on the back foot for a moment. They use the sound barrier to try and sustain, but the ultimate is still up and ruining the health bar of Dreamer, who eventually goes down.
Even with that, what does it cost Seoul Dynasty? Absolutely everything. Does it cost Dreamers everything as well? Sure. But it's a time factor, it's a distance factor. It's 3 minutes and Seoul Dynasty only now moving payload, like respectable, significant distance on payload. That is by far the most effective Shambali spawn camp I've seen all season.
By a Contenders team, no less. Seoul Dynasty are certainly feeling the pressure. Void first and foremost as well, taking the brunt of the damage from Dreamers, who eventually redirect it towards the likes of Prophet, who's taken down by Dreamer. Void, the only person left, wondering what on earth happened to my team. The House of Cards has fallen around him.
And he's self-staggering. I don't know why you even bother Nemesis forming there. Now you're into last fight, 20 seconds left remaining. The Seoul Dynasty have to play into good ultimates, miss it on the backline with the Amp Matrix. Spectre can play Blizzard on the payload. Easy hard to split the map in half, and there's very little Soul can do. Sonjin has his own Blizzard shot, but he's got to run up to the payload and fight up against Spectre's Blizzard first.
Dreamers have the luxury of being either proactive or absorbing the pressure. The choice is theirs. They choose proactive again. This team that looked so unwilling to take fights of their own volition in maps and games prior against far tougher opponents now walks up to Seoul and takes the fight to them time and time and time again, map after map, engagement after engagement. They are finding every last bit of fight in them and throwing it at the Owl team that stands in their way.
And the Ryan had to work here, because this is, I think, the only respectable part of the map for Ryan. Once you get past this area of A, once you get to B and C, I think the Ryan starts to fall off massively. That's when you want to play Ram instead. This is Spectre's a little bit earlier play here. Pixel perfect, right click into the chef, knew he was going to land the shot. For Dreamers, you know, I speculated that they keep Dreamer in to play the Ryan specifically for the spawn hole. That's where the Ryan's going to be most effective, and it's more than effective. And for Seoul Dynasty, this has historically been their best map so far this season. This has been the one map they've been infallible on, especially from the back of Void. But even with Void in, hasn't really done enough for Seoul Dynasty. I don't think that's enough distance at all. Dreamers are in position to get the 2-0 currently.
I think that is a very cold take that's not enough distance. That's not enough distance for anybody on this map, quite frankly.
Look at that. That's barely around the corner.
It's 1.5 fight. That's not even 2 that Dreamers have to win. Now the spawn hole comes in.
That's like Frodo and Sam haven't left the Shire. That's what that is.
No, they're still packing lunch.
Seoul Dynasty going to attempt the same spawn hole. The Ram version. I don't think it's as strong as the Ryan version, but I don't think Void, again, I talked about this, I don't think Void's going to really test the Ryan. This would be a bad place to do it. Couldn't go up against Dreamer.
I think I'm most curious about the Sombra pick. Is a little weird to me. I think you want the lethality of something like that. Hanzo's still with you.
Look at the HP bars.
There's nothing lethal. But what Dreamers are doing this whole Dynasty right now, they've just been walked on. The sustain, not there. The immortality field, poorly timed. The cooldowns being used in tandem when you least want them to be. Dreamers are steamrolling. It's spawn hold into instant cap here in map number 3. The draw made things look closer for Dynasty. Dreamers make that look silly. Snatch back control of the series and put Seoul on the ropes.
Yeah, you're right. That he did make Seoul look silly there on that map, and a map that you did not expect that Seoul were ever going to lose, especially not to a contender squad. I mean, eventually they'll probably lose to somebody, but dang, not to a contender squad, not like this. But Dreamers have been on fire today, and now Seoul Dynasty are at risk of joining the only other 4 Overwatch League teams that have fallen to a contenders team so far this season. But dare I say, the stakes are so much higher now because, yeah, the other teams are lost. We've seen all the NA teams lose to the respective contenders teams in the Pro, but that was the Pro-Am. We saw Shanghai lose to some Prison, but that was at the start of the bracket. You're in the lower bracket now. You lose this, you go home today. Seoul Dynasty's run for Mid-Season Madness ends today if they don't bring this back around.
It's not going to be easy. They're fighting for their lives now. Seoul, there's so much on the line, and with tenure like they've got in their roster, you expect them to turn up in moments like this. See if they can do it. And into map number 4 after this break. Welcome back, everybody. We've got a Seoul Dynasty on the ropes, and not just on the ropes in regular match point fashion. No, they are yet to take a point away from Dreamers, who are in form like you would not believe today. They look to finish this thing out in relatively quick fashion after 4 maps and 1 draw. It's a close one.
And they're making the Rhine look good as well. Channeling the London Spitfire, or, you know, maybe I should say the 2020 LA Valiant squad, who off the back of Dreamer had some good success, and, you know, 2020 Valiant fans celebrating right now, including packing 10, because the dream is still alive for Dreamer, whereas the dream for Seoul Dynasty is fading away. And I talked about this, you know, I was joking, maybe we'll see 6 maps here, 7 maps here. If that's to happen, it would have to be a reverse sweep from here on out. Or, I guess at the end of the day, maybe Lemon Kiwi was right. She said 3-0. It might just be a 3-0, but not in 3 maps. It'll have to be in 4. However, for Dreamers, it's all the same. It's all a win.
3-0 is a 3-0. I mean, Dreamers would have taken anything with a 3 at the beginning of it. But this is far more than anybody bargained for. But this team has done everything we didn't expect them to do today. Initially, we came in looking at the matchup. We figured flexibility would be an issue. Seems like it just hasn't been. They figured their way through all the matches. We were worried about the proactivity. They've solved that. The Spectra into Sunjin matchup has been not a question at all. That one's been put to bed. Then they go over to Shambali, where it's like, okay, now Seoul's going to do their whole Shambali. Nope, not that. I don't know what more you can throw at this team. At this point, Seoul's done trying to throw things at this team. They're just going to let them have probably the map pick that they wanted.
What's really sold the matchup for me as well wasn't even just the Tracer matchup for Spectra, but even the May coming in last map.
So
pristine. Yeah, the amount of times you locked out Void, running into spawn for the 2K, perfect execution. The final opportunity for the fans to send their support to the Seoul Dynasty, who in the Genji's facility right now have to pull together all they can.
Very vocal support from the audience. I know this is a polarizing match, to say the least. The Dreamers, though, it's an opportunity to step up like they never have. Seoul Dynasty offered up the map pick. They'll bring Bellis Reyes Winston into the fold. Dreamers look to match, but with Easy Han on the Hanzo.
Yeah, so this is, by the way, still Seoul Dynasty's pick. They haven't won a map yet. So we're going to opt for the Winston on both ends here. And Colosseo is a funny one because, you know, you could have played Ram here as well. I think the best Winston map is obviously going to be towards the Esperanza side, maybe New Queen Street. Sonjin instantly having a transfer carried out. What? I mean, that was a random whip shot as well. How did Dongman hit that?
It's just Dongman things, man. I've been casting Dongman for a minute.
That's crazy RNG if it was.
I've stopped questioning it at this point, Avril. You'll get used to it. Easy Han, though, on the side lane. Providing a profit.
God.
Give them one to the dome. That flick was kind of mean. This is next to fall, though, and it's not over yet. Health bars for Seoul Dynasty, though, dropping dangerously low, and it's just Lee Soo-min now to try and dredge them up from the depths. Yeah, that's not happening.
I think the Genji pick was a little optimistic there as well. This is just not the right meta for Genji. I mean, we've seen some success on other teams, and people remember the proper Genji. San Francisco Shock just played recently. But still, man, Trace is available. We're on a push map. Offense best hero historically has been the Tracer. He'll need to be the one to match up Spectra. Sonjin tried his best versus Spectra. Wasn't that effective. It'll be Prophet's turn. Now Sonjin, speaking of one HP.
Sonjin low. Bellis Rhea already dead. You can't let this much push progress go early. Much less on Colosseo. Spectra's already doing phenomenally as well. Hit it into Sonjin, and now looks for the 1v1 against Prophet. Talk about confidence.
Well, they need to set up for an EMP here. Sonjin's trying to be annoying with these solo hacks, and okay, that will be a decent dive. 3 players of Seoul Dynasty connecting, but while that's happening, Payload is nearing the checkpoint now. Now break, okay. I don't, mate, was that misused? That probably should have gone green.
It was just to keep Dongman alive. They wanted to keep the rally in play. Unfortunately, yeah, it's just not going to work. I think the more proactive play, like you were talking about, the nano onto the Winston is probably worth letting the break go, but either way, that's the decision Dreamers made.
Oh, they lost a player already, so it was already looking pretty bad for Dreamers, and solo picks on a map like this is very important, which is why every single EMP, even if it's a solo member, probably won't be worth. In that case, it certainly was onto Missing. Trade the EMP for the nano. Both ultimates you can comfortably cycle through, but it's Lee Soo-min who holds the nano now.
Uses it very aggressively. Easyhan dropped low for Dreamers, but not taken out. Dreamers actually absorbed the pressure from the nano boost phenomenally. Now it's Seoul who are put on the defensive. Rally popped early by Krillin. Dongan answers with one of his own. Profit first to go. Easyhan starting to farm on the Hanzo. I know we've been singing the praises of Spectra thus far, but Easyhan's openers have been quite nice this map.
Picked up the pace for sure. Interesting play from Bellisria that I saw there. He dives in with a nano as expected, but ends up having to jump back over towards the payload. I don't know if that was peeling for his own team. I think Dreamer definitely tried to trade backlines there, but would have liked to have seen Bellisria just continue with the nano into the primal, because he also got low. So either that he felt that he needed to peel for his team, or that he was too low to continue the fight, but he get the primal and ends up primaling around the payload instead of primaling into the backline of Dreamers. So Dynasty at the back foot there with Easyhan free to just free shoot. Profit free to get a solo pick.
Yeah, that should be enough to just heftily change this one over for Seoul Dynasty. Dreamer should be able to get out clean, though. It's a handshake.
Look how close we got to a cap. Dreamers are going to get this in the next fight. I mean, if Dreamers win one more, I think they cap for sure. They're in position to play through the nano, contest in the middle. As we don't allow the Seoul Dynasty to get too much distance on the opposite end.
Where we got to see that confidence from Dreamers, though. Proactive nano this time. None of that playing around like they were doing over on Hollywood. This time it's straight into the back line for Dreamer. Eats the sleep, but that's no big deal. The work is done.
The payload moves. Really have to threaten the cap here. Make sure that Prophet doesn't steal away the payload. And with a late death on the Sonjin, yeah, this is, I think, the cap for sure. Seoul Dynasty can do very little here. Put the pressure on the Prophet. A little bit of contesting from the bridge.
I mean, they're trying. This just can't possibly stay up for long enough. The robot passes that little contesting point up high on the bridge. Now Pulse Bomb to make things go from bad to worse for Seoul Dynasty, but they're given an opportunity just before the point touch comes in. A nano boost onto Bellos Rhea. Needs to do something, but it simply can't. Easyhan and Spectra are rolling the back line of Seoul Dynasty unassisted. They need no help. That's a point cap, almost certainly, for Dreamers, and more to come afterwards.
I mean, the only reason we saw an extra fight was because of the bridge contest. I mean, again, good meme there, but this whole Dynasty, that kept them up for one extra fight. The nano to Bellisria is what you'd expect. Unfortunately, couldn't find the follow-up, though. It was Bellisria versus this Dreamers' entire backline. You couldn't get the job done. Meanwhile, the trades that were coming through on Dreamers, who had the opposite dive effect, allowed them to cap, and they just continue. The kills don't stop.
It was scary when it was just Spectra, but Easyhan is evolved in this Colosseo map into something far more dangerous than we've witnessed before. How do you pull this back if you're Seoul?
With incredible difficulty, because now double support ultimates online for Dreamers. Watch the rally from Dong into match in just a hot second.
This is in every sense a losing fight for Dreamers. They've got to play into that rally. The anti-nade is nice by Lee Soo-min, but the rally just doesn't seem to care that much about it. Continues to harass the backline as well as Sonjun goes down. A pulse bomb in hand. Looks to put the final nail in the coffin as it connects onto the Winston. It could be all she wrote for Seoul Dynasty, but it doesn't. They've given one more opportunity to get a good contest in here.
This is a difficult map for Seoul Dynasty, but this is about to be a disgusting map. If Dreamers can actually fully cap this one, it'll be a 3-0. With a spawn cap on Shambali and a full cap on Colosseo. I mean, that is absolutely gross for Seoul Dynasty. Still some opportunities to bring it back around. It would start with killing Dongan.
It's first down. You can't overextend into this. Bellis Rhea so low! Spectra falls back to peel. The DPS for Dreamers have just been on something completely different. Seoul, though, do manage to claw it back and get that card at least moving in the opposite direction.
The only silver lining there is that Bellis Rhea diving is fairly inconsequential because the payload was so far shoved into Seoul Dynasty territory that by the time Bellis Rhea respawns, the payload is only just in mid now. Bellis Rhea rejoins the team instantly, so that death thankfully wasn't an issue for Seoul Dynasty. The problem now is, with under 3 minutes, how do you match 126 to barely 10 meters? I mean, not even 10 meters, actually.
It's difficult, but there's only one way to build a road, Averald, from the ground up. Seoul Dynasty are laying down the foundation, at least right now.
And we'll call it the yellow brick road for Seoul Dynasty, given the team colors, and you got to lay that brick one piece at a time, with barely any time to do it. As that window rapidly closes, 2 ultimates used here, and the other problem is you have to really ration out your ultimates to push through. And they are going to need some good attempts here, because one fight loss means Dreamers shove the payload all the way back into your spawn.
There's an opener. And that fight loss is something that Seoul simply can't think about in moments like this. They can't think about the scary monster in the closet. All they can think about is not stopping, pushing. Spectra and Dreamer, though, continue to haunt their nightmares. Kill by kill, Elim by Elim. Dreamers are starting to pull it back. Spectra good for one more. 1:55 on the clock. The robot not quite progressing backwards. Seoul protect their progress for now, but it's going to be a difficult regroup. Spectra is hunting down Prophet. Cares not for veteranship. Cares not about how long you've been here. Same goes for Bellows Reyes. Spectra is just here to take names.
The payload, as expected, is going to go all the way back in Seoul Dynasty territory, which means all the work they did is basically being undone. Look, they got the 33 meters in there, but you're still lacking about 80 meters. It is a bridge too far, I'm afraid. Such little time left. Dragon strike out from Dreamers to clear the bridge. Everyone on the low ground now for Dynasty, you'd think.
We stepped out of Miracle territory.
By the way, really quickly, Dynasty, you'll notice that Dreamers didn't continue pushing because they don't have to.
No.
They just have to defend for the rest of that. Why would they take the risk of pushing into high ground territory? They simply don't have to.
No, you can take
Smart play.
A completely neutral positional fight here and have the nano boost as the advantage. They use it, take the position. Dreamer playing very carefully, just not wanting to overextend. I think it's a fantastic play by Dreamers. Yes, it doesn't find anything, but kind of okay with that in moments like this. Now Pulse Bomb's coming up, and anti-nade into the backline of Seoul Dynasty. Oh, kills look all the more likely. It's raining Soul bodies in the forecast right about now, and Dreamers are singing in the rain.
30 seconds left to play through now, and Seoul Dynasty, they would have to go for the Miracle OT push. Easy hunt down, it's a good start. But you have to do that time and time and time again with Sonjin to be basically traded here. Seoul Dynasty have to burn ultimates.
I mean, they're happy to at this point. They'll use anything to get this card moving in the opposite direction. Prophet carefully pulls back, but Dogged runs him down.
Rig 1.0.
Prophet's getting bullied this map. Dare I say it.
All of Seoul Dynasty. This is the shot, the only shot. This is the 1 in 14 million, and that's probably what it's going to take. If they had a gap by 80 meters, you'd have to win so many fights to even be able to attempt to match 126 here. And Dreamers, they just got to defend in every single second that we go through this map. The spawns get better and better for Dreamers as we head towards their spawn location.
Dreamers can see it. They've just got to hold on for a few moments more. With Dreamer down, though, it becomes a little bit more difficult. Overtime Wick beginning to heat up.
Primal gone, though. Every fight is costing ultimates for Dynasty. Dragon strike next.
Soul opting to spend big, and it pays off. Spectra down now. The cart beginning to push. A long and arduous journey ahead of Seoul Dynasty Dreamers. You talked about that 1 in 14 million for Dynasty. Well, Dreamers winning this feels like about the same odds.
Easy odd.
With a 3-0. But they don't care about the odds. Bellis Rhea does put reality back into perspective, though. Keeping the cart pushing for Seoul and telling Dreamers that it's not quite over yet.
Cap. Okay. It looks like a lot of distance, but it's only 66 out of 126, so roughly still half the distance left to go, at least another 60 meters or so. Sonjin sprinting back from spawn on a Soldier 76, and this is the problem. Every single player from Seoul Dynasty that dies, the respawn distance is extremely long. The Dreamers are building up towards more ultimates.
They've got forward respawns. The pulse bomb for Prophet is the only thing they've got going for them, though. If any player could hit it in a critical moment, it would be Prophet. But until that pulse bomb's out, Spectra comes in and is absolutely tearing through the health bars of Seoul Dynasty. Spectra versus Prophet on card now. Dear God, you didn't expect it to end like this, especially like that. Oh, boy, Prophet steps away for a moment. Didn't stand much of a chance against the Winston and the Tracer, but that was a position that Dreamers earned themselves. Dongun giving us a little thumbs up as well. A well-earned one, because they know what they just did. They know who they just knocked out. Seoul Dynasty are gone. Dunzo, kaput.
Seoul Dynasty now join the likes of 4 other Overwatch League teams as the 5th Overwatch League team to fall to a contenders roster this year. And for Dreamers, the dream continues. The dream of maybe making the midseason madness, continuing in the bracket, continues. For Seoul Dynasty, it's a nightmare on Elm Street. as Dreamers will haunt their dreams, I think, for a long time after that. Seoul Dynasty have had a slow start to the year, to be sure. That start has now been fizzled out, at least for the first half. As for Seoul Dynasty, a long break, as they'll have to be sitting on the sidelines if they want to be watching some Overwatch League at the mid-season madness. They won't be the ones playing. They'll have to wait for stage 2 here. You mentioned, Dor, you're not too sure if you expected it to end that way. The overall macro field of view, 3-0. Yeah, it's... You didn't think Dreamers were going to 3-0 there. But as far as those last 2 maps look, Shambali was an absolute stomp. Spawn hold into a 1 attempt. Colosseo, I'm going to say, was kind of a stomp as well. 126. I think once 126 to what was about, was it 30 meters, less than that? Once that was, it was about 40 meters, or what was like 126 to 40 meters. Once that was on board, I think the no. If you on graphic, I got told it was actually, no, in fact, it was Easy Hunt. So I got told it was Spectra, but no, it's actually Easy Hunt. Easy Hunt got the player of the match here. I think both DPSs played super well. Easy Hunt definitely started to, I think for the both of us, warm up towards the end in terms of really buying in to his player of the match potential.
I mean, both. It's a tough choice between the two. You saw that last fight from Spectra? I mean, both of these two. The only way of putting it is like they just really say so low. These two DPS gapped whoever Seoul could throw at them. Initially, it was Spectra's Tracer up against the like of Sonjun. Took care of that. Took care of Prophet later. Easy Han doing the same exact thing on virtually every pick that was offered up. And then the Hanzo coming into the last map, really just the icing on the cake.
Yeah, I think the Hanzo on the last map and the similar first map really did it for me for Easy Han. And, you know, didn't even get to see him on his signature hit scans. I mean, this is more of the expanded hit scan pool as far as playing Sim and Hanzo goes. And I think when you have to play in these Ryan compositions, the team aspect is so important. We talk about how hive mind you have to be to play these Ryan comps perfectly. To be able to TP in, knowing how to play Sim, which is a very, I think, fragile character. In these matchups, you're always a target. And here as well, I mean, this was just miracle surviving. Unfortunately, Sonjin just missed every shot here. Maybe was he behind the... No, he goes in front of the wall, shoots down the lamp, and then just doesn't kill Easy Han. Which is a very sad moment for Sonjin, and he was sad a moment for the Seoul Dynasty. But yeah, again, it's Dreamers coming out on top, Easy Han doing the deed.
And with haste as well. What a phenomenal performance. We talked about Easy Han's role as a damage dealer in the final map, but when you're playing on that Symmetra, the DPS role really does shift into much more of a shot calling role, and I think that's incredibly impressive to have that in your back pocket as well. I mean, the guy just kind of did everything across the board, but so did Dreamers, who had what seemed like a fair few weaknesses after their past couple of matches, but turned it around phenomenally, and at the hand of Easy Hoon, finish off the series. We got an interview with them coming up just now.
So we get ready to hand it over to Unknown to have a talk with Easy Han, rather, for the Korean Contenders Disc. Overwatch League, rather.
감사합니다.
Congrats on your win. Thank you. You have a big smile on your face. I mean, even if it was me here, I would have smiled there. How do you feel?
리그 노가웃 올라와서 첫 승이라 좀 굉장히 기분이 좋은 것 같아요.
So I'm really happy, and especially because this is the first win in our Overwatch League knockouts.
네네.
그런 것에 대한 좀 다름이 있나요? 혹시 뭐 컨텐 팀을 잡고 올라가는 것보다
Does winning an Overwatch League team feel particularly different compared to winning against a contenders team?
제 때 컨텐 소속으로 리그를 이긴 게 처음이라 좀 좋긴 한데 사실 연습 때 다른 리그 팀들도 많이 이기고 했어가지고.
I mean, it does feel good being able to win over an Overwatch League team on an actual competition, but I mean, on scrims we've beat an Overwatch League team several times, so I don't think it's super special, but it still feels good.
사실 1점 준 것도 아쉬워서 3대 0을 예상하고 있었어가지고.
To be honest, I think we could have won this 3-0. It didn't really have to go. We didn't even have to give them a point. Is there something in particular that we've been preparing before the pre-match and it worked out really well?
거의 모든 걸 세밀하게 다 이렇게 준비를 했었거든요. 근데 전 대회 때 이제 긴장해서 안 나오던 그런
I mean, to be
준비
honest,
친구들을 이제
there isn't like
보여주는
one
것
specific thing that we
아,
prepare
그러면
into the
시간
match. We
경기를
prepare
오히려
for almost
본인들이
every single
처음 리그
situation
경기를 하다
that we
보니까
can think of
본인들
coming to
실력이
the
안
match.
나왔던
And
건가?
compared to previous matches, I think we've executed a lot better.
그렇군요.
그러면 이제 지금 패자조로 내려간 팀들이 이제 로도스와 포커페이스가 있어서 이 두 팀 간의 승자전 대결하게 되는데
네.
포커페이스가 만약에 올라온다면
So now you go against
상대를
the winner of
0대4
Rhodes or
만들었던
Poker Face, who is waiting,
포커페이스인데
who you're waiting on the lower bracket. If Poker Face
전보다는 더
comes
좋은
up,
경기력을
what do you think how the match is gonna go? How do you think the match is gonna go?
아마도 예.
I mean, I'm guessing.
아니 이거 같아요. 그래요. 예, 인터뷰를 자신 있게 해야 돼요. 그렇죠?
I mean, of course. I mean, this is your interview. You're the you know, main character here. Get it? I mean, be confident.
계속해서 그걸 지금 갈고 닦는다 저희가 계속해서 그런 말씀들을 드리는데 왜 이 러시의 본인들이 어떤 면이 이렇게 잘 맞아서 쓰는 겁니까?
We've been witnessing you using a lot of rush comps. Is there something like a special reason behind that?
다른 팀원들도 물론 잘하는데 일단 라인이 잘해서 많이 쓰는 것도 있고 이제 코치님들이
I mean, of course, we have a good Rhine player, and everyone else is good at what Rhine compositions need.
오늘
But
경기에서 그러면
it's also
요
like a
부분은
result
조금
of
아쉬웠던 것 같다. 우리가 요 부분을 좀
I
많이
mean,
놓쳤다 하는
discussion between
선수로서의
coaches and
평가
players.
뭐가 있었을까요?
플레이하다가 다급해져가지고 자기 플레이를 못하는 그런
Things
것들.
that we can
네, 네.
improve on is, or can be, I think, maybe getting a little hasty when things don't go as planned.
착했으면 이길 수 있는 상황 이런 거 놓치는 거 말씀하셨던 거죠?
So you're meaning that when things don't go as planned, you should be a little more composed, right? Yeah.
조금 더 침착해질 거라는 생각이 들고요. 자, 드리머즈 팀명이 드리머즈잖아요. 선수들 어떤 꿈을 꾸고 계십니까?
So your
지금?
team name is Dreamers. Let's hear about what your dreams are for the namesake.
일단 지금 현재 꾸는 꿈은 킨텍스다.
Well, on short terms, we should make it to Kintex, which is MSN.
이기고 싶다 하는 팀이 혹시 있습니까?
Do you have a specific team that you want to beat?
페이스는 꼭 이기고 싶습니다.
Again, a little bit of short term. I definitely want to beat Poker Face.
드리머즈 오늘 너무나 수고하셨고 승리 다시 한번 축하드리고 이지한 선수도 파이팅.
Again, congrats on your win, and back to you, Cast.
네. 아유 이지한 선수.
Appreciate the translation so much, and honestly, if I was in the same position, I'd be grinning ear to ear too. What a win for Dreamers.
Yeah.
After this, though, another match with another knockout on the docket. It's Rhodes versus Poker Face. You're not going to want to miss it.